Hi, everyone. Good to be back here together with you at another Sibos. Very excited about all the developments in our industry. I think this year is really the most interest I've seen in digital assets ever, which is a huge, huge boon to our blockchain industry side of the equation. But I think it's also going to benefit the TradFi industry more and more as they see the value of digital assets. So we'll be discussing digital assets here today, partly Chainlink and partly our work on corporate actions, together with the DTCC and many other great partners. I think that the digital asset industry is relatively small right now. I think we're talking about less than $1 billion in total assets on chain. Less than $1 trillion. And I think that it's easily going to surpass over $1 trillion by this time next year, probably multiple trillions, just from the stable coin trend alone. Eventually, I think we'll reach the part of the cycle where everything is going to be on chain, because putting an asset on chain is easy, getting the associated data on chain is easy, verifying what's going on relative to counterparties and transactions is easy and cheap. And I think it's going to be easier and cheaper than it is to do it in TradFi. So eventually the whole blockchain industry will be about TradFi based on the numbers. It'll be mainly the same industry. So, the digital asset industry and the finance industry are going to become one big industry. That's what's going to happen next. Generally speaking, at this point, even at these relatively low industry numbers, we have already enabled over $25 trillion in transaction value as the leader in enabling transactions on chain that require data, connectivity, compliance, and other key operations. We also work with the leading financial institutions, financial market infrastructures, banks, and asset managers. Here's a small cross-section of some of them that we've started working with live on production, started announcing different collaborations with, and started forming partnerships with. I think from here, it's very clear that the problems that need to be solved require a set of global standards. So I think it's very clear that you need standards. SWIFT is a group, and Sibos is a conference about standards. And so we're here today to show you some of our work with SWIFT and to show you some of our work with others in the financial community around how on-chain standards can come together with existing systems and existing standards to create next-generation digital assets. But just so you folks can understand what Chainlink does, it basically creates a set of these on-chain standards around data, connectivity, cross-chain interoperability, compliance, privacy, and a long list of other problems that blockchains don't solve, but that they need to have solved in order to do digital asset transactions of any real value or complexity. So here behind me, you see the data standard, the interoperability standard, the compliance standard, the privacy standard, and a short list of solutions made out of combining these standards. But fundamentally, what Chainlink, I think, will become is an open global set of systems and standards that are used by the SWIFT community, are used by various CSDs, are used by banks and asset managers to work together on a set of interoperable global standards that are compatible with the existing financial systems. So that's the important nuance that I think not everyone yet fully understands, is that this will be compatible with the existing systems. It doesn't need to replace the existing systems. It can be made completely compatible. One good example of this is our work with SWIFT. So we've been working with SWIFT for over 7 years. Today, SWIFT announced two big things. One is a chain environment that we're working with them very closely on to provide various oracles there, data oracles, connectivity oracles, compliance, identity, and various other oracle types. And they also announced that they're going to be moving ahead with their interoperability work by, in their own words, supporting existing and emerging systems for various use cases. That is also a continuation of our work with them. So I'm happy to say that both the SWIFT community and SWIFT are starting to take interoperability more seriously, on-chain transactions more seriously, and seem to be going to the next stage. We're thrilled to be working with them. We're thrilled to be working with everyone in the SWIFT community, and very excited about now going towards real use cases, live in production implementations, where I feel we are now all rapidly going. We've also worked in the SWIFT community with folks like UBS. This is where we implemented some of our work with SWIFT and allowed tokenized funds from UBS to use existing SWIFT systems to subscribe to and redeem from tokenized funds. I think that this is really innovative use case because tokenized funds are really the main digital asset tokenization use case beyond stablecoins. It's really stablecoins, tokenized deposits, or CBDCs for payments, and tokenized funds on the asset side, starting to form a market, right? So the tokenized fund trend can also be utilized and integrated into through SWIFT and existing systems. We are going to be showcasing more of our work with UBS in the days to come, and we're going to be also showcasing something called Digital Transfer Agency. So a Digital Transfer Agency technical standard is something that, if you're here at the conference, I think you folks should pay attention to. It's going to be a new global open technical standard that any transfer agent can adopt and integrate to allow them to deal with digital assets very efficiently and allow their existing fund administration process, their existing compliance process, and their existing payments rails in the form of SWIFT to be integrated into both the transfer agency process and the fund tokenization process. So this is something you'll see here at the conference from us. More to come in the days to come. If you're interested in fund tokenization, fund administration, transfer agency, or payments around digital assets, this is a topic I think you should pay attention to. Another topic we'll be discussing here at the conference will be our work with the Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, the LEI. We have a compliance framework and identity framework where we've started to integrate with various identity sources like the LEI for getting critical identity information on chain. Getting this critical identity information on chain means that you can have compliance on chain, right? So once you can prove things about entities, you can create compliance conditions. Those compliance conditions are managed by the Chainlink Compliance standard. That standard is around identity, policies, and monitoring and reporting to regulators from on-chain activity. Now, this is a topic we'll be discussing here with the LEI. There will be sessions on this. If you're part of the LEI community in addition to the SWIFT community, I advise you to go to those sessions. There's some very advanced stuff going on there, and it's going to show how existing identity systems like the LEI can be made compatible with digital asset compliance problems and how the compliance problems can be solved. So it's very exciting that we're solving all the different transactional problems as well as all the compliance problems. Then the other thing that's coming out here at the conference, just to give you folks a heads up, it's not out today, but it'll be out soon, is our work on DataLink. DataLink is an institutional grade platform to allow data providers, data sources, such as large exchanges or other data sources, to put their data on chain for consumption by other institutions. It's made to meet their various compliance, privacy, and other requirements so that the data that they put on chain is easily usable by the other institutions. So those are the things I would pay attention to from Chainlink here at the conference. If you're a data provider or you have a data business, I think DataLink will be very interesting for you because this is a problem we've been successfully solving in many cases for many years, and DataLink is really the culmination of that and is really a next level product for anyone who wants to put data on chain for institutional use. The other big thing that I think we should discuss is our work on corporate actions. We made a very big announcement today that together with Chainlink, 24 large financial institutions and financial market infrastructures, including SWIFT, Euroclear, and the DTCC, as well as SIX and others, have worked together to find a solution to the problem of corporate actions. So how do you verify corporate actions? Then how do you share corporate actions? And then how do you make sure that the corporate actions are used in digital asset processing around various securities, public equity, and so on? Corporate actions are a very complicated part of the financial markets. As you know, they're very prone to error, they're very prone to mistakes, and they're very prone to many problems. This is the list of participants from phase 1. So approximately 10, 12 participants, some of which weren't public. This is the new list of over 24 participants, including some of the biggest FMIs, some of the biggest global banks, and some of the most successful asset managers. I think we've really hit on a really big problem with corporate actions. I think corporate actions are also a gating issue for providing other forms of tokenized assets on chain like public equity and others. So I think solving this problem will be a very big unlock for our industry, which is exactly what we in the Chainlink community like to work on. The corporate actions problem today is basically that it's extremely costly. There's also a huge amount of error and there's a huge amount of in-person intervention, basically because data quality doesn't exist and data fragmentation is a very, very large issue. This is exactly the type of issue that Oracle networks and blockchain networks are able to solve. The Oracle networks solve the data validation, data fragmentation issue, and the blockchain networks house the final golden record and allow it to be used and shared by a global community of users in an efficient, secure way. The basic solution is going from a very multi-step process of corporate actions to essentially a two-step process. The first step in the process is verifying the corporate action event using AI models, multiple AI models at the same time, coming to what's known as consensus. So the multiple AI models have to reach a certain level of agreement. That agreement is achieved through the Chainlink system. The Oracle network, which houses different AI models, will process the corporate action event, and it'll make sure that it meets a certain high standard of verifiability. And it can verify this corporate action data off of both structured data or unstructured data, like PDFs, news items, plain text, news articles, whatever. So it can capture the full universe of corporate actions, not just the already structured data in corporate actions. That's step number one. Step number two is placing the data onto a chain from which the financial servicing and the financial asset manager community wants to access the data. This is where we think, and the FMIs in the collaborative kind of project together with us and others think FMIs have a big role to play. In this case, we had DTCC's chain, their own chain where we placed the data. And so that chain was a place where both the DTCC user base and the larger financial markets could go and get the corporate action data that was successfully verified using Oracle networks and AI. There's also a process to append data to the corporate action. So the beautiful thing about blockchains is that there's so many people that can join. You can have so many different participants join and do two things. You can add information, verify information, or you can consume information. So this is not about creating another aggregator where it's very closed and no one else can access it under any circumstances. It's about creating a global standard where everyone can come together and help verify the relevant corporate actions in a shared, useful model. And then also gain access to the corporate actions under the conditions of the FMI. So it's also the ability to not only do it in a completely automated way, but do it in a way that the existing participants can add information to the corporate action, which is one of the things we found during the collaborative process was valuable to the participants. Another problem that was solved in phase 2 was the ability to get the corporate action to work across chains. This is where Chainlink's CCIP cross-chain interoperability protocol was used to synchronize the corporate action launched on the first chain with all of the activity on the second chain and the third chain, the fourth chain. And that's valuable because you're going to have tokenized public equity, you're going to have tokenized funds, you're going to have all kinds of tokenized things on many different chains. And you're going to want those many different chains to be able to access the corporate action on whatever chain it's placed on as the authoritative source of corporate action data for that region or for that part of the financial markets. And so this is where Chainlink also, I think, provided a lot of value. In addition to validating the corporate actions data, it connects the corporate actions data back to all the different contracts and all the different chains, enabling the reach of the corporate action to play the role of a shared golden record. And that's really where blockchains, we think, provide the majority of their value, is the ability to create a shared single golden source of truth. But the problem then is that you have a lot of blockchains. So how do you synchronize that golden source of truth across all the chains? That's the other problem that was definitively solved. The third problem that was solved in phase 2 was the ability to synchronize the corporate action data when it was placed on the FMI's chain, in this case DTCC, back to the existing financial systems. In this case, Swift was used, Swift messages were used, and the ISO 20022 standard was used to take the information that was made the unified shared golden record and be able to port it back into the existing financial system. So my view is that you'll be able to definitively prove the state of a corporate action because it's properly validated using consensus and Oracle networks. You'll be able to share that single golden source of truth across all the environments where it's useful. That's going to include digital asset environments like chains. And through this method, it's going to include the traditional finance environments. So I think this will expand far beyond digital assets into the traditional finance environment. And then finally, I think we had a lot of great key outcomes. I think the FMIs were very excited about the things that were able to be proven. And I think we arrived at a really great result that proved the value of Oracle networks, blockchain networks, and smart contracts. But I don't want you to just take my word for it. I'm going to be very lucky to be sharing the stage with Nadine Chakar from the DTCC, who will also share her views on how valuable and useful this was. So Nadine, please come on up. So this corporate actions problem, Nadine, is it a valuable problem? Is it something that you think is worth solving for the capital markets?
Anybody that's worked in financial services operations will tell you the life of a corporate action manager is not a bed of roses, right? So there's a lot of work from collating data to ensuring the accuracy of the data. And in worst cases, when things do go wrong, they could be costly mistakes. I know I've done that in my career. So the ability of trying to find a solution is really exciting. And this is not our first rodeo. As an industry, we have been trying for decades to try to find a way to consolidate data, to automate the data. We're not yet at a stage where you can set and forget it, but the blockchain, smart contracts, oracles have given us a path, if you will, a better shot than we've ever had. So that was a long-winded way of saying yes.
Thank you. We definitely want to hear your views. You're the leader on digital assets at DTCC. I think you know a lot about the TradFi world and the digital asset world. Yeah, it is a really long-standing problem, and I think solving it is something I see a lot of excitement around. I personally didn't even understand that. I was really surprised to see the level of uptake for this project, but the growth of it has just been massive, going from approximately 10 participants to over 24, and I think it's going to go far beyond that. So in phase one, I think we had some initial interest and we did some market validation. In phase two, I think there was a lot of new technical work that was done to prove a lot of things about the capabilities of blockchain networks, Oracle networks, the ability to synchronize with existing systems. How do you feel? What do you feel about phase two? Do you feel that it's proven certain things about the technical possibilities?
I think technically we've been able to prove a lot of things. I'm also very proud of DTCC's contribution, Sergey, working with Chainlink, and it shows that when we collaborate as an industry, both an FMI in our situation, but also contribute our technology to the common good and partner with a fintech that's focused on solving complex data issues, we get somewhere. So I am excited that we were able to demonstrate that the combination of AI and digital technology are a very potent combination. We've been able to show that you can take some level of institutional know-how, code smart contracts, and be able to perform some corporate action activity. To your point, we've been able to do it cross-chain, which is really important. And this is the beginning of a long, arduous road, if you will, to get us here. Because as I've said to Sergey before, unfortunately, corporate actions were complex. And if they're not complex, we would have solved this a long time ago. There's over 60 to 70 different permutations of how we do things. So data collection is definitely a massive step. Trying to automate it is another. And now hopefully we'll be able to focus our attention on how do you institutionalize it? How do you incorporate that into workflows? But most importantly, we still need to give some thought to the risk assessment process. How do we incorporate that into our workflows? And listen, if you guys have been around as long as I have, you take this with a grain of salt. We have tried as an industry many, many, many times to solve this. But I think this is the first glimmer. You could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train. So we know there's a path, and we're very excited to have contributed with that, with all the great names that you had posted up there.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting time when you see the combination of these technologies start to solve problems that have been around for decades. I think the problem is very valuable to solve for the digital asset industry, but also for the TradFi industry. Um, what do you think is the order in which a solution like this would get adopted? Is it the digital asset first, the TradFi first?
I think so. I believe it's digital assets, but the way we're doing it at DTCC, we're also leveraging a lot of the know-how, the systems, the infrastructure. I've got three of my colleagues here. We're all working together to be able to solve it because the reality of things is, well, we're going to see tokenization move at a much faster clip than we've ever seen. The reality is not everything is going to get tokenized. We're going to live in a hybrid world for a period of time. So we need to try to get to an even playing field as much as we can. But I think where we will leverage a lot of these great things that we've discovered together over time will probably be in the tokenization space. And where we at DTCC are focused, we're focused on digitizing the US markets right now. So you will see us hopefully make a great contribution to trying to get our participants to accelerate the adoption of digital technology, tokenization, and SOHO. And we've chosen the hard road purposely. We've chosen to do this right. We've chosen to bring corporate actions on chain. And we can't do this alone. We need our participants to help us get there. We need partners like Chainlink to help us get there. But I am confident that digital adoption will be first. But I think there'll be some level of benefits to TradFi, but not before we solve everything that I talked about. Risk, what happens, liability. There's a lot of stuff in the TradFi world that operates a bit differently. But we need to keep them in sync.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing that I realize more and more is how the existing systems need to get utilized because there's certain requirements to make sure they're utilized, and also how the financial market infrastructures of the world provide certain guarantees to their user base. It's hard for technology to provide those guarantees. I still think there are parts of what smart contracts can and can't do that an FMI can provide those reliability promises and other promises that a smart contract in some ways and a global standard still can't. So I think it's very exciting to see great organizations like the DTCC that have such a big influence on the financial markets seeking to merge these two worlds. But I agree with you that it's a kind of merging. It's not one of them replacing the other or anything like that. I think that's always been a little bit of a confused idea from the blockchain side of the equation.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to get crucified by DeFi friends in the audience, but I truly believe that the road to digital adoption, tokenization, has to go through an FMI, at least in the original stages, mainly because of the structure I talked about. Old and new have to coexist. And at DTCC, what we're aspiring to do is to provide the same level of products and service and security to the new infrastructure as we do to the old. And by having that harmonization come together, you're going to put more confidence in the system, right? In DeFi, it's in the code that we trust, but it's going to take us a while, right, as original TradFi people to ensure that, my colleague Gloria's here, like if she's gonna process a corporate action, she's gonna want to know that her team has gone through the data, we've cleansed it, we've harmonized it, right? It's going to take us a while to trust that the Oracle and the blockchain is where it needs to be. I believe that day will happen. It's not going to be tomorrow, right? And to your point, Sergey, I think and I think people know this, DTCC is owned and managed by its participants. Everything that we do in the service of our participants. So it's that collaboration. And now we're very fortunate to have firms like Chainlink that also bring the technical prowess to be able to accelerate those developments. But the FMIs, at least for a short period of time or a medium period of time, will be driving that to get to standardization, to harmonization. Listen, blockchains don't look good in orange. You still need a single throat to choke. You still need somebody to write the check. and when things go wrong. And right now with this technology, we still don't know how do we react, how do the markets react when something blows up. And that's when you need the intermediaries, right? It's when things don't go right. So we still, we're still looking forward to working with yourselves and, all our partners, both in fintech and in traditional finance, to find the answers to all these questions.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the public blockchain and DeFi community has become enamored with the code is law and code is always right. And then there have been issues with that, right? There have been hacks. There have been some problems with bridges. No problems with Chainlink bridges, though, just so you know, in case you're looking for a bridge. But I think it's very different in the financial infrastructure and financial institution community, where, to your point, there needs to be an accountable party who's delivering a service, who has a license, who's synchronized with the regulator, who's providing certain guarantees. And those guarantees are not something people are going to stop wanting, right? They're going to want those guarantees. And I completely agree with you that having those guarantees will accelerate our industry's adoption in the financial markets in ways that just more reliable code will not do in this market, right? I do think to your point, we'll get to a point where the system's been operating so long and so well that people will start trusting more and more in the code, because they'll see on production at trillions of dollars in value, it's been operating successfully. But I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's really great also, I've realized, to have institutions like the DTCC and SWIFT who are member owned and operated, because the governance is really kind of a fast track to adoption, because the governance is what makes everyone comfortable with adopting the approach.
Absolutely. I mean, we're still far away from trusting blindly. We need to trust but verify. But you also have other infrastructure impediments right now. Scalability is one, right? To be able to process all that. DTCC is a company that settles $4 quadrillion a year in settlements. I don't know how many of you know how many zeros there's in the quadrillion. I know I've got to look it up. We need that scalability. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be put in place. What we have here today, though, is an immense and a really important first step or second step. But there's work for all of us to be able to do. We need to get our regulators comfortable. We need to get our clients comfortable. We need ourselves to get comfortable with this. So listen, anybody that's worked in this space, we are risk managers first. So we do need to spend the time to understand when things go wrong, how it operates. We need to understand how do we harmonize all that. Having partners like SWIFT and Euroclear and other CSDs around the world will be very helpful as well to try to push it forward. But I commend Chainlink again to probably take one of the hardest problems in lifecycle management and really take a crack at it. And we'll get there. I'm confident of that, but it's going to take us a bit of time.
Thank you, Nadine. I'm very excited as well, and it's been really great collaborating with you and your team. A lot of really thoughtful folks that I can say from my personal experience are really pushing the envelope of what's next. And so I have a lot of faith in the DTCC being able to make the markets more comfortable by having something really cool and something really reliable.
Sergey, I want to thank you and your team. I mean, you guys have put the time and the money and the energy behind this for the common good. We value that partnership and look forward to continue to work with you.
Thank you very much. Great to see you, Nadine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.